Enchante 1, Leçon 4, les objets et les gens. हमारी बुक का 4th लेसन का नाम है les objets यानी objects et les gens यानी people. So, पहली इमेज में आपको दिख रही होगी एक क्लासरूम जिसमें बैठे हैं बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स एंड देयर आर लॉट मेनी बबल्स और उन बबल्स में लिखी है कुछ vocabulary. So quickly, you know the drill. Pause the video. Try to identify as many objects as you can in English. And once you're done, get back and check if you were able to get them right or not. And those who won't do that, come discuss with me this vocabulary. Qu'est-ce qu'on trouve dans une salle de classe? What all do we find in a classroom? Let's see. So these are all the objects which we can find around ourselves when in a classroom. Right now, I'll be speaking out loud the object in French. You just have to repeat its pronunciation with me. All right? The first one, une institutrice. Une institutrice. I know. Ma'am, स्कूल टीचर कोई ऑब्जेक्ट थोड़ी है. बच्चों, इसीलिए चैप्टर का नाम les objets et les gens है. Because we're going to discuss both the objects we find in a classroom and the people we find there. Okay? Next one is un tableau. Un tableau. Next one, une table. Une table. Un pupitre. Un pupitre. Un élève. Un élève. Une élève. Une élève. Des étudiants. Des étudiants. Une porte. Une porte. Des fenêtres. Des fenêtres. So these are all the things you find in a classroom. But there is more to it, right? On the next slide, you see all the stationery items or all the items one finds in a school bag. Okay? So let's learn about them. The first item is a stylo. A stylo. Next, une gomme. Une gomme. Des cahiers. Des cahiers. Un cartable. Un cartable. Un livre. Un livre. Une règle. Une règle. Une trousse. Une trousse. Un crayon. Un crayon. Un taille-crayon. Un taille-crayon. Une bouteille d'eau. Une bouteille d'eau. Une boîte repas. Une boîte repas. So, on this slide and on the previous slide, you learned all the vocabulary of objects and people you find in a classroom. Let's move on to our lesson now. So, did you note all the aforementioned nouns have been followed by a, une, des. You, as examples, I've picked un stylo, une trousse, des cahiers. Okay, the object is stylo, trousse, cahier. What is this une and they that I have put in front of each noun? So these are the articles. And these articles in French are called lesarticles indéfinis. Les articles indéfinis. Or as in English, we know them, the indefinite articles. These articles are used with common nouns. And in English, they mean a and in singular, some in plural. So you can say a or une. They translate as a and in singular. And des, des, translates as some. So for example, you have un garçon, a boy, une fille, a girl, des enfants, some children. So let's learn how to use them with different nouns. So how do we decide which article to put with which noun? So rule number 1, un, that is l'article un, is used with masculine singular nouns. For example, un garçon, un ballon, un livre, a boy, a balloon, a book. Rule number 2, un is used with feminine singular nouns. For example, une fille, une règle, une fleur, a girl, a scale, a flower. And rule number 3, des is used with all plural nouns. So, des enfants, des chocolats, des maisons, some children, some chocolates, and some houses. So all these 3 rules you have to remember by heart so that you put the correct article with the correct noun. But the problem is, how do you know what is the gender and number of the noun? How do you look at a noun in French and know that, oh, this is masculine singular, this is feminine singular, or this one's plural? So let's learn some rules to identify that. So rule 1 for that is that if any noun in French ends with S, X, or Z, it is considered as a plural noun. So what you have to remember, what you have to look out is, if the noun is ending with the letter S or X or Z, it is a plural noun. And which article do we put with plural nouns? DES. For example, you see des cahiers, des croix, des nez. All these 3 different nouns ending with S, X, and Z, all are plurals, and that is why we put the article DES with them. The next rule, if any noun ends with an E or ION, so not ION separately, but ION together, like in solution, question. In English, we have these words. The same we have in French, la question, la solution. When ION comes together or the letter E comes, generally, these are all feminine singular nouns. Okay? For example, une fille, une école, une solution. So this way, we're able to identify that these nouns are feminine singular, and thus we put UNE with them. But how do we now know about the masculine singular nouns? If any noun does not fall in the above 2 categories, जो हमने अभी 2 discuss करी, voila, it's a masculine singular noun. अगर वो SXZ से end नहीं हो रहा, अगर वो EION से end नहीं हो रहा, तो इसका मतलब बचा क्या? It is a masculine singular noun. We see a garçon, un tableau, un chapeau. So these are a few examples. But things cannot be this easy, right? It is a language. And a language has its own set of exceptions. Now, what does that mean? Not every noun agrees to the rules we have just discussed. इसका मतलब हर noun जो E से end हो रहा हो, सारे के सारे nouns feminine नहीं होते. सारे के सारे nouns जो SXZ से खत्म हो plural नहीं होते. There are exceptions and जैसे जैसे आप language सीखोगे वैसे वैसे आपको उन exceptions को जानने का मौका मिलेगा. For example, leave, gnome. Both of these nouns end with E. Still, we have used a masculine article with it. Une maison, une fleur. Neither of these end with an E. Still, I have used a feminine article with it. So, these are the exceptions that you have to memorize. The only way to correctly identify these nouns is to memorize them. And as I just mentioned, as you keep learning the language, new exceptions will come in front of you and that is where you pick them up from. जैसे जैसे आप सीखेंगे exceptions आपके आगे आते रहेंगे. So what is suggested is अपनी books या notebooks के end में एक separate list इन exceptions की बना लीजिए. This way जब एग्जाम हो या आपको कुछ राइट अप लिखना हो, यू विल हैव अ क्लियर अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि ये वाले नाउन्स एक्सेप्शंस हैं या ये वाले नहीं है. Okay, so here I have given a very small list. As you can see, these nouns have already been introduced to you in the previous lessons or this lesson only. This way you'll get a hang on them. Okay, so with this the topic of articles end. But any topic in my class does not end with a practice, does not end without a practice exercise. So let's go. You have to put the articles a, in or they with the following nouns, and for your help I have given a table as well. Right away pause the video and try to do this exercise. I'll wait for 5 seconds and then you will see the answers on your screen. All right, there you go. Quickly verify your answers, and those of you who have got some answers wrong, go back to the previous slides, check which rules did you miss out on the exceptions, and this way we'll get a better clarity of this concept of indefinite articles. All right, time to move on to our next concept, leplurieldenoms, plural of nouns. So we have just studied how to identify a singular noun, how to identify a plural noun. But what if there's a situation that I give you a list of singular nouns and ask you that can you change them into plural for me, or vice versa? For that we have to know the rules, right? Let's go ahead. So how to make nouns plural in French? So generally, like in English, to make a noun plural, we simply add an S to it. So if it is un crayon, it becomes des crayons. Now आपको तो noun में S add करना है. तो बच्चों, noun में S add करोगे तो article भी तो बदल जाएगा, क्योंकि un as an article लगता है masculine singulars के साथ, but उसको plural जैसे ही बनाया, उसका article क्या बन गया? des. इसी तरह अगला देखिए, une porte बन गया des portes with an S. Note, the S is never pronounced. So even if I'm writing des crayons, des portes, I will not read it out as des crayons, des portes. No, the S is never pronounced in such cases. Now, after you've understood this rule, let's move on to the next one. The next rule says that words ending with S, X, or Z, they remain the same. With S in the singular form, in the plural form also, it will stay the same. What will change is the article that is following it. So if it is un bus, that means there's only one bus. But if I say des bus, that means there are some buses around. Une croix, that is one cross. Des croix, there are some crosses around. So the articles in this case help us know whether the noun we're referring to is in singular form or plural. All right. Next thing to know, Words ending with EU, AU and EAU take X in plural. So this might be a hint for you all, which in the books of grammar is not the correct way to remember this. But I must tell you कि अगर कोई भी noun U से end हो रहा है, most of the cases in French, you will add an X to make it plural. Okay. So although the books clearly mention EU, AU and EAU, but just for a general level of understanding, कोई भी U ending noun है, तो उसका plural आप बनाते हो. कोई भी U ending noun है, तो उसका plural आप बनाते हो एक X लगाकर. So as you can see, a gato, de gato, a bato, de bato. Okay. So these are 3 rules that you have to remember. Rule number 1 was by adding an S, you make things plural. Rule number 2, in case the nouns end with SXZ already, you do not change them in plural. And rule number 3, if the noun ends with a U, you put an X in plural. Okay. So again, the same drill. Pause the video. Take your time. Change these nouns in plural. And remember to change the articles as well. Okay. In the next 5 seconds, the answers will be on your screen. Okay. Let's see the answers. There you go. Quickly verify your responses because I have one more short exercise for you to practice. Exercise number 2 on the same topic, which is Vidéo pluriel les phrases. Now this time you have to change the sentence into plural. Wait, how do we make sentences plural? ये तो आपने सिखाया ही नहीं. आपने तो सिर्फ nouns को plural बनाना सिखाया है. So, my bad. Let's learn it first. How do you make sentences plural? There are certain steps you need to follow so that just like you changed nouns into plural, you can also change the entire sentence into plural. So step 1, you change the subject and accordingly conjugate the verb. Now, let me give you an example. So if it is je, in plural, it becomes nous. So for example, if it is je suis, in plural, it will become nous sommes. Next, if it's tu, the plural of tu is vous. So tu es becomes vous êtes. Il becomes il est becomes ils sont, and likewise, elle becomes elle est becomes elles sont. So this is how you change the subject and accordingly conjugate the verb in plural. Next, you change the article. A or une becomes des. And last, you change the noun as per the rules we learned. Easy, right? So now you have learned the rules on how to make sentences plural. So let's get back to our exercise. You go. In the next 5 seconds, you'll have the answers on your screen. So be good kids, pause the video and try this exercise. Okay, let's go. Here you have the answers on your screen and quickly verify, see if you've got them all right. And if you did, give yourself a pat on the back. Very good. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Oh, I'm tired. All right, I'm tired. Most of you must be thinking like that, right? But c'est tout? Is the lesson over? No, on va continuer notre leçon. So this particular chapter of Enchanté will have it in 2 parts. And in the next video, we will be continuing our next topic of les adjectifs. Till then, Keep practicing, keep revising. Au revoir. Bye.